Hello guys, welcome back. So far we implemented the feature which allows user to send connection requests to other users. Now we need to move forward toward taking action on these connection requests. I mean, if a user receives the connection request, then they can take action on it. I mean, if they wish, they can accept it. If they wish, they can reject a connection request. By the way, I would like to tell you that this part will be divided into sub part as this is quite long feature. So as the first part, for taking action on these requests, we first need to create the index action in the connection controller so that we can display all the connections of a user. These connections can be of both types. I mean, the connection request that a user sent to other users and the connection request a user receives from other users. So first switch to the connections controller in the app controller. So switch to the project directory. Okay, and before the create action, we need to add a new action and name it as index. Okay, so here what we can do, you can add a new action def index. Okay, and now within this index action, we need to fetch user connections in two different connection collections. Okay, one collection keeps all requested connections and other will keep all the received connections. Okay, and while creating the connection model, I already told you that a user id attribute in a connection record will represent the id of the user who requests to connect to other users, and the connected user id attribute will represent the id of the user who can take action on a connection request. I mean, who can accept it or reject a request. Okay, so to get all the requested connections, we first need to find all the connection records where the user id is equal to the current user id. Okay, so first to find the requested connections, so at the rate requested connections is equal to current user dot connections. Okay, so current user dot connections will give you all the connection requested by this user. Okay, now we need to find dot where, and then user id is equal to current user dot id. Okay, and save it. Similarly, we need to get all the received connection requests from other users. Okay, so to do that, we need to find all the connections where connected user id is the current user id. Okay, so now let's write another collection for at the rate received connections, and here connection dot where, sorry, user id is equal to current user dot id, sorry, connected user id is equal to current user dot id. Current user dot id. Okay, save it. And now we need to add a link in the header that will take us on the index page of the connections controller. Okay, so open the header partial from the app view shared. Okay, so you can come to the app view shared, and in the header partial, what we need to do, we need to add a link that is similar to my profile. We just need to change the text and the path of it. So here you can add my network. Okay, and here you can change the path to connections path. Okay, save it. Okay, and now come to the browser. Here you can see, when you refresh the page, you will see a my network link here, and when you click on it, you will get an error that index is missing a template. Okay, so now it's time to implement the index.html.erb within the app views connections. Okay, so go to the project directory again, and in the connections, create a new file and name it as index.html.erb. Okay, now in this index template, we need to write the html snippet to display some content. I mean, the requested and received connections on the browser. Okay, so add the div element here, div class, call lg10 mx auto, and then mt5. Close the div and end the end of line file. Now, within this div, we first need to display all the requested connections, but only if at least one requested connection is present. I mean, the requested connection collection is not blank that we define within the index section of the connections controller. Okay, so let's add the condition here. Here, what we can do, if at the rate requested connections dot present. If it is present, then we need to display our requested connection for the currently signed in user. Okay, so if this condition true, then add a card element here, div class card. Okay, and here within this card, first we need to add the card header and the div, and here what we need to do, h3 card title, and then close the h3 tag, and within this h3 write a heading that is requested connections. Okay, save it. And now after the card header, we need to define the card body element. So div class card body, and within this cardboard, and also add another class here that is text center. So whatever we will display in this card will be coming in the center of the card. Okay, and now we need to add a row class here, because to display all the connections in a grid, we need to add a row class. Okay, so div class row, and within this row now we need to iterate all the requested connections. Okay, so we can use the requested connections dot each iterator here. Okay, so add the rails tag, which do, and here connection and the iterator. And now within this iterator we need to add our column class. So div class call lg3. Okay, and within, sorry, call lg3, and now we will display our connection data within this call lg3 element. So let's display the connection data in this call lg3 class. So first add the card, another card element, div class card, and within this card div class card body. Okay, now first we need to display the image of the user. Okay, since we have not added any active record or any file storage for the user images in our course so far, so we can display the dummy image here. So we can provide the dummy image in the image tag and dmu1.jpg. Okay, I have this image in the app assets images. If you have different image, then you can do that. Okay, and now class that is img fluid and mb1. Okay, so to keep the space between the text and the image. Okay, now we need to display the username here along with the profile title. Since we are displaying the requested connection here, so we need to find the user by connected user id. Okay, I mean we need to display the details of the user from which we request for connecting to us. Okay, now add a p element here, p class lead, and then font weight bold. Okay, and here close the p tag, and then within the p tag we need to write our query. Okay, however, if you can, if you wish, you can add this query within the let's say application helper as well. So for example, let me write that query in the helper. Okay, so go to the application helper. Here you can find this in the app helpers, and what we can do here, def get the requester, sorry, get the receiver. Okay, and here user id, and then what we can provide here, user.find user id. Okay, and save it. Now we need to call this helper method on the view. So what we can do here, get the receiver method in the index.html.trb. We can find it here, and then dot name, because we will display the name here. Okay, now what you need to provide as the user id, so connection dot connected user id, connection dot connected user id. Okay, and now we need to get the same query to fetch the profile title of the user. Okay, so we can add this in the small text. So small class text muted, and here what we can do, instead of name we can display profile title. Okay, and add the br element here. Okay, now after this profile title, we need to display the status of the connection request. Okay, so after this small tag we need to add another div, that is dgrid. And why dgrid class? Because dgrid class in the bootstrap file is used to display the button in the block format. Okay, so here what we can do, we can add a dummy link. Why dummy? Because in the requested connection the current user cannot perform any action. Okay, so we need to display the link as the button that is cannot perform any action. Okay, so link to, and then what we will display here, connection dot status, connection dot status dot titleize. Okay, and then to add the dummy link, javascript void 0, javascript void 0, and then add the class, that is btn primary and empty2. Okay, now save it. Okay, so this way we can display all the requested connections of a user. Okay, so just switch to the browser, and now if you refresh the page you will see that this error is gone, and now here you can see all the requested connections made by this user. I mean, the current user has sent a connection request to all the users that we are seeing here. Now we need to display the received connection request for the currently signed in user. Okay, so first let's make a check whether the current user has any received request or not. Okay, so for example, uh, just like we did here, we can just copy this snippet. Okay, and then just paste it here and receive the received connections by requested requested connection by received connection. Okay, received, and here keep, keep the r capital. Okay, and now what we need to do, that we need to just make some queries here, because here we provided connection dot connected user id, and now we need to implement a method that is get the requester. Okay, so just go to the helper, and just like get the receiver, what we need to do, get the requester. Okay, and then the same query we need to use. Okay, and now we need to call this method get the requester within the card element, that is this one. But here we need to provide connection dot user id instead of connection dot connected user id. Why? Because now we are now we are displaying the details of the user who send a connection request to the currently signed in user. I mean, who is the requester for currently signed in user. Okay, so now what we will display here, get the requester, then connection dot user id. Okay, and do the same thing in the next query as well. Okay, and save it. Now since these are the received connections, so instead of displaying the connection status directly, we need to display within some condition. Okay, I mean, if connection is accepted already, then we will just display the connection title. Otherwise we will display two buttons, one to accept and other for rejecting the connection request. However, for now we will keep both buttons as dummy links. Okay, but in the coming lectures we will allow user to take action on the accept to allow users to take the action on the connection request, whether to accept it or reject it. Okay, so what we need to do here, after the small tag we need to add connection, that is if connection dot status equal to accepted. If this condition is true, then we will display this grid here. Okay, else we need to display two action button to the users. In the else part, what we can do, we can add a link to javascript void 0, so we can just copy this Now we will now we do not need the D grid here because we need to display two buttons instead of only single button. Okay, so we can add here, let's say accept, and to accept we can display this text button in success. Okay, and now and the other link will be linked to reject. So here you can put reject and then btn danger. Okay, save it and come to the browser again to see the received connections on the my network page. Okay, here if you refresh the page, you will see that this user has one received connection from the user Town. Okay, so here you can see that instead of a single status button, what we are showing, we are displaying two actions button for received connections. Okay, so here you can see this is accept and this is reject. However, this is dummy, so we cannot perform any action on it, but we will implement all these actions button in coming lectures. Okay, now let me sign in with another user to send a connection request to this user, so we can log in into the incognito mode. Okay, so just open the incognito mode here. Okay, so what we can do here, you can see that this is the browser open in the incognito mode. Now we need to sign in with another user here. Okay, and now let me fetch another user, let's say user.id, sorry, rails c, and find me user.find, let's say 200. Okay, so this is the email of this user, so let's copy this email and sign in with this email sorry, paste this email here, and now we need to use the password. Okay, so oh sorry, there is some mistake, and login now. Okay, so here you can see that this is the user, and now since our user is the 1000, current user is has id 1000, so let's visit the user with id 1000 here. Okay, sorry, it is members 1000, or not members, it is member maybe. Okay, so this is the member 1000. Now send a connection request to this user. Okay, so when you click on it, you will see that it is showing the pending connection to the user signed in with id 200. And now if you click on the my profile, sorry, not my profile, click on the my network. If you click on the my network, it is showing you that this user has sent a connection request to this user. Okay, now if you come to the different mode. Okay, now if you refresh the page, you will see that this user has two connection requests received from other users. Okay, so this is what we want to show for this lecture. So here you can see that we implemented this my network page where we are displaying the requested and received connection request. Okay, but here is an issue. For example, make some space in the terminal, sorry, in the terminal where the server is running. Okay, now if you refresh the page, you will see that it is running the queries within the loop to find the requester and receiver of the request. So if you go to the terminal, and here you can see that it is now running lot of queries in the background, and this is not a good practice. So what we need to do here, we need to avoid these query calls here. Okay, however, we will use the association here, but we will do this using eager loading to save the performance. Okay, because it has very worst impact on the performance so far. Okay, because right now we have very low level of connection or low number of connection requests, but suppose if the connection request increases, then the query being performed also get increases. Okay, so we need to fix this, and we will fix this in the next lecture using eager loading in the connections controller. Okay, and we will also see how to add custom association using foreign key and class name attribute in a model. Okay, meanwhile, try this lecture at your end, and we will meet into the next lecture. Till then, tata, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.